Okay. Hello, I'm Bryan from Tobias, McCormick & Comer, and I'm joined again, thankfully, by Corporal Burkett with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Corporal Burkett, always good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. Now, I understand that there's been a change in the law as it relates to construction zones, and could you just kind of tell us generally what the new law is that's recently gone into effect?
Yes, sir. So before July the 1st, which is whenever the law went into effect, if you were in a construction zone, an active construction zone where workers were present, and you were stopped for speeding, then it would be double the fines. So there was an increase when you were in that specific situation. Now it's opened up for any moving violations. So for example, if you're following too close, if you change lanes without signal, so any of those moving violations which actually lead to accidents, and we've seen a rash of accidents in the construction zones, and even when we get out and we investigate crashes, we have our ALDOT troopers go out in the zone and investigate those crashes. We're finding out when we talk to the motorists that they were unaware that they were even in the zone.
Wow.
So go ahead.
Yeah, and I saw some statistics on that. Even last year with COVID, it was over 2,300 wrecks in construction zones across the state that resulted in, I believe, 19 deaths and 616 injuries. And that's construction workers and motorists.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
My goodness. And so I'm sure people have seen on the interstates before, or even on the highways, speeding fines doubled when workers are present, but so now that extends to these other violations that you were just discussing.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. So, and that's what we're wanting to do. We're just wanting everybody to be aware. There's multiple things that you need to be paying attention to, and there's multiple things that you need to be aware of whenever you're out on any road. But what makes it so dangerous in the zone, for example, especially around these heavy extended holiday traffic periods, which we work with Alabama Department of Transportation, and they'll lift those zones. If they've got a construction zone in these extended holiday periods, they'll go ahead and open that up. But even leading up to it, but if you can just imagine, if the interstate that you're on, it's a 2-lane interstate, a 3-lane interstate, and you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and then you go through a lane closure because they're doing construction on that other lane, that traffic's going to get extremely tight.
Sure.
So now you're going to be even tighter than you were originally when you were already tight on a 2 or 3-lane interstate. Plus you've got workers present. Right. So you're going down the side of the road, and there is literally another human being 2 or 3 or 4 foot away from you. Right. So it's imperative that you pay attention to your surroundings, and it speaks volumes for us as an agency when our employees get out there, the ALDOT troopers go out there and they talk to people and they don't even realize they're in the construction zone.
Which is really just amazing to me, and I think it goes to the fact of the distraction that drivers,
yes, sir.
I mean, have y'all seen an increase in distracted driving? Because it seems that any time I come into a construction zone, there's signs warning that it's coming up. There's the posted placard or whatever that has the information about it, and then you see all the cones. I mean, have y'all encountered an increase in distracted driving?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So, and again, that's where we work in partnership, and we have troopers in these construction zones. We work with Alabama Department of Transportation, and just as you said, they'll have cones, the message boards, the error boards. They'll have their trucks, and we've got a tremendous amount of safety equipment, signs telling you miles out that, hey, you're about to be coming up to a construction zone. You need to start paying attention. We're just hoping that it's out of all of that one of those things will register. Sure. and people will be aware. But it does I believe with technology, of course, as it's advanced, and you see these smartphones and smart devices and all the technology, and just everything that goes on in a vehicle, and even when you have these long trips, maybe every day you may put the kids in the car to take them to school or drop them off at daycare, but they don't necessarily ride in the vehicle with you for 8 hours. And then you'll take pets. Everybody loves their pet, and they'll put the dog in the car, but that's a lot going on. Right. You've got a couple smart devices in the vehicle, maybe you're utilizing the GPS. So, you're on this long trip, you got the kids in the car now, you got the family pet in the car, hey, you got your cell phone, and you're trying to watch a GPS to make sure you know where you're going. So that's a lot for anybody to be able to process and then keep their eye on the road. So that's why we ask everybody to pre-plan that trip. hey, know your route. We understand GPS is a great technology, but please don't just rely only upon that GPS. Have an idea about where you're going. You know, I know this is old, but do a map recon if you can. Plan your trip, at least the major roads, so you're aware of them and you know where you're going. And just kind of lay it out and do the things to where you're prepared to where if something happens during the course of the trip, it's not an emergency.
Sure, and you bring up a very good point. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not a distracted driver. I'm not texting when I drive. I'm not browsing the internet, or like we were talking about, reading a book.
Yes,
like,
sir.
Just unbelievable. But there's other things in the car that can distract you, whether it's fiddling with the radio, or like you're talking to kids screaming in the back seat, or somebody's asking you a question, or even checking the GPS. I mean, anything that distracts you from paying attention to what's happening in front of you is distracted driving. Is that fair?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're just asking everybody to keep your eyes on the road, maintain that focus on the road, and distracted driving and on these long trips can lead to drowsy driving. Oftentimes we talk about plan to take breaks, in which that goes back to being prepared for the trip as well. I love to share this every opportunity I get to talk about it, but keeping at least a half a tank of fuel in your car. So that sounds, well, Corporal Burkett, why is it necessary for me to keep half a tank of fuel in my car? Because let's say, for example, you're on the interstate and there is a serious crash, all right, and you've got the kids in the vehicle, and you've got the dog in the vehicle. Well, now you may be stuck out on that interstate for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
Well, it's going to be the 4th of July, so we know it's hot. It's 100 degrees. We're here in South Alabama, where, hey, at lunchtime, it's, with the heat index, it could be 110 degrees.
Right.
So you need that air conditioning to keep, if you got a 6-month-old baby or a 1-year-old small minor child in the vehicle, it's important that you need to be able to run that vehicle for those 2 or 3 hours. Right. So it's things like that. It's really thinking through. So you know what, I'm going to maintain an appropriate fuel level in my vehicle, but then also, hey, if I'm on this 8-hour trip, I need to take a break every 2 or 3 hours anyway to just get out, hey, stretch my legs, refocus to where you don't lead into that being drowsy, into that tunnel vision, into that fatigue, to where you kind of lose focus. Because that happens on extended trips.
That's true. And then speaking back to the change in the law with the construction zones that we see is Alabama Department of Transportation is improving the roads. People are really close to the lanes of travel, and it's a life or death matter, just a few feet.
It is, absolutely. That's why when you get in that zone and the following too close, you don't need to have that cell phone in your hand anyway. We ask that you put that cell phone down, that you pay attention, because just like I said earlier, your vehicle could drift over 3 or 4 foot, go on just the other side of that cone, and there's a human being standing there.
That's right.
And we can't stress that enough.
Sure. Well, and doing videos like this certainly helps get the word out there, and I appreciate you coming here and talking with us about that as always. So kind of to recap, not only can you get a ticket, a doubled fine ticket for speeding when workers are present in the construction zone, but now if you're following too closely, or you're distracted, or you're not signaling appropriately, or an appropriate amount of distance before you change lanes, things like that, you're also looking out for, and that can also be a double fine.
Yes, sir, that is exactly correct.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Be safe out there on the roadways, and Corporal Burkett, we love to have you back anytime you're down this way.
Hey, well, thank y'all for this opportunity and giving us an opportunity to come share this message with everyone.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.